I let my brother and his wife live in my apartment for months. Then he spread lies that I was hitting on his wife. So my mom demanded I buy them a house to settle this. I just kicked them out instead. I, 28 male, have always been the fixer in my family, the responsible one, the one who gets his stuff together while everyone else is busy making a mess. But even fixers have a breaking point, and boy did I reach mine. Before I dive into the nuclear explosion that was the grand finale, you need to understand the messed up dynamic that created this whole situation. My mom Diane had me when she was 19, and my brother Zach came along 3 years later. Our dad stuck around just long enough for me to have a few hazy memories of him before he dipped out when I was 5. Zach was barely 2. From day one, Mom made it clear who her favorite was. Maybe it was because Zach looked more like Dad, or maybe it was because he was the baby. But whatever the reason, the golden child treatment was real. When I was 7, I got straight A's on my report card except for one B+ in art class. Mom just frowned and asked why I couldn't do better. That same year, Zach got held back in kindergarten, and she threw him in "it's not your fault" party with ice cream and presents. No joke. Mom worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat, but still managed to make it to all of Zach's Little League games. My chess tournament finals. Sorry, honey, I have to work. This stuff happened so often I stopped telling her about my activities altogether. By the time I hit high school, I was basically raising myself. I got a job at 15 working at a local computer repair shop, saved every penny, and mapped out my escape plan. Meanwhile, Zach was failing most of his classes but was the star of the football team, so nobody cared. Mom was on her 3rd husband by then, some dude named Keith, who was cool enough but mostly just stayed out of our way. I moved out at 18, put myself through community college while working full-time, then transferred to state for my degree in computer engineering. 4 years of busting my butt living off ramen and working night shifts. But I did it. No help from Mom, no family loans, just pure grit. Zach? He got a football scholarship to some no-name college, partied his way through 1 semester, lost the scholarship, and moved back home. By the time I was 24 with a solid career as a network engineer, he was 21 and had cycled through 3 different minimum wage jobs, never lasting more than a few months at each. Mom divorced Keith when I was 22 and married a new guy about a year later. I'll call him Frank. Frank's actually a decent guy. He runs his own construction business, keeps to himself, and tries to keep things peaceful. But when it comes to Mom, let's just say he doesn't exactly call the shots. She runs the show, always has. Frank might grumble here and there, but at the end of the day, he folds. 2 years ago, Zach met Amber at some dive bar. She was bartending. He was drinking away his last paycheck. According to the story he tells, it was love at first sight. According to the reality I observed, it was 2 directionless people clinging to each other because nobody else would have them. Amber seemed nice enough when I first met her. Quiet pretty in that generic Instagram filter kind of way, with this permanent deer in headlights expression. She came from a shitty family situation too. Dad in prison, Mom with addiction issues. So I got why she latched on to Zach. In her world, a dude who occasionally held down a job and didn't hit her was probably a catch. They dated for all of 3 months before getting hitched in Vegas. No planning, no savings, no jobs, no fracking clue, just vibes and promises. Mom cried tears of joy like he just won a Nobel Prize. I gave them a $200 gift card to Target, and my sincere wish is that they'd prove me wrong about their future. For the first year of their marriage, they bounced between Mom's place and Amber's friend's couch. Zach worked as a bartender for a few months, then got fired for giving free drinks to his buddies. Amber had some online gig selling leggings in one of those pyramid schemes, but was always just about to hit it big. Despite being in the red every month, I kept my distance during this time. I had my own life. Good job, decent apartment, actual adult responsibilities. I'd see them at the occasional family dinner, where Zach would brag about his latest business idea, selling custom sneakers, starting a YouTube channel, flipping houses with no money down, while Mom nodded along like he was the next Elon Musk. Then came the day that would eventually lead to my villain origin story. It was a Tuesday evening in November. I had just gotten home from a 10-hour workday, kicked off my shoes, and was about to order some Thai food when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I checked the peephole. There stood Zach and Amber looking like they'd just been caught in the rain despite it being a clear night. Zach had this forced grin that I knew all too well. The "I need something, but I'm going to act casual" smile. I sighed and opened the door. "Hey, bro." Zach boomed, arms open wide like we were long-lost brothers reuniting after years apart. We had seen each other at Mom's birthday dinner 3 weeks earlier. "Looking good, man. Those protein shakes working out for you. I hadn't changed my diet or workout routine in years. This was classic Zach stuff. Always start with flattery. What's up, Zach? I asked, not inviting them in yet. Everything okay? Amber stood slightly behind him, clutching her purse with white knuckles. She offered a weak smile but said nothing. Yeah, everything's great, Zach said, rocking on his heels. So listen, we were in the neighborhood and thought we'd stop by to catch up. It's been way too long since we hung out, you know. We live on opposite sides of town, I pointed out. And it's 8:30 on a Tuesday. His smile faltered a bit. Well, yeah, but can we come in for a second? It's kind of cold out here. It was 65 degrees, but I stepped aside and let them in. My apartment wasn't anything fancy. 2 bedrooms, open living dining area, decent kitchen, but it was clean, paid for, and mine. I saw Amber's eyes widen slightly as they entered, taking in the big TV, the gaming setup, the actual matching furniture. Nice place, bro, Zach said, immediately flopping onto my couch. You're really killing it, huh? I just nodded and sat in the armchair across from them. So, what's going on for real this time? Zach and Amber exchanged a look. Then Zach leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and put on a serious face. Okay, so here's the thing. We're kind of in a tight spot right now. The apartment we were staying at had some issues. I raised an eyebrow. Yeah, like black mold, super dangerous. The landlord was a total dick about it too. Wouldn't fix anything. And then he tried to raise our rent by like $200 out of nowhere. I knew that was stuff Zach had been crashing at Mom's for the past 3 months. But I let him continue digging his hole. We were going to go to Mom's, but you know how crowded it is there with Frank's kid visiting, he continued. Another lie. Frank's son lived in Seattle and visited maybe twice a year. So basically, Zach said, reaching over to grab Amber's hand. We were wondering if we could crash here just for a couple weeks until we find a new place. We're both job hunting. Got some really promising leads. I looked at Amber, who hadn't said a word this entire time. Is that right, Amber? Promising job leads? She nodded quickly. Yeah, I have an interview at the mall tomorrow for the makeup counter. At least she sounded sincere. I should have said no. Every rational part of my brain was screaming, hell no. But there's this fudged up programming that happens when you grow up always being told to take care of your sibling to be the responsible one. Even when you break free, those hooks are still in you somewhere. Plus, I made the classic mistake of thinking, how bad could a couple weeks be? Fine, I said finally. You can use the spare bedroom for 2 weeks, but we're going to have some ground rules. Zach jumped up and pulled me into a bro hug. You're the best man. Seriously, you won't even know we're here, and we'll help out with everything. Cooking, cleaning, whatever you need. I laid out my rules. No parties quiet after 10 p.m., because I wake up early for work. They clean up after themselves, and they actively look for jobs and their own place. They eagerly agreed to everything, acting like I just offered them a winning lottery ticket instead of basic hospitality with conditions. That night, as I listened to them whispering and giggling in the guest room while I tried to sleep, I had this sinking feeling in my gut, but I pushed it away. 2 weeks. I could handle anything for 2 weeks. The first couple of days weren't bad. They kept to themselves, were reasonably quiet, and even washed dishes after using them. Zach spent hours on his phone supposedly applying for jobs. Amber actually did go to that mall interview, but didn't get the position. She seemed genuinely disappointed. By the end of the first week, small cracks started showing. The bathroom was always wet after they used it. Empty soda cans appeared between couch cushions. My grocery bill suddenly doubled. Still, I tried to be cool about it. They were trying, I told myself. Rome wasn't built in a day. The weekend came, and I mentioned I'd be going to a friend's place to watch the game. Zach immediately invited himself along. Nah, man, it's just Dave and a couple guys from work, I said. So I like football, and I should meet your friends. He had that same forced grin. Maybe another time, I replied, grabbing my keys. As I left, I caught a glimpse of Zach's face. For a split second, he looked pissed. Like really pissed. But when he saw me looking, the smile snapped back into place. No worries, bro. More time for me and the wifey to hunt for apartments online. When I got home that night, my apartment smelled like weed. Empty pizza boxes were stacked on the counter, and Zach and Amber were passed out on the couch, Netflix asking if they were still watching. I woke them up and pointed to the mess. Zach had the audacity to look annoyed. Chill, we'll clean it up tomorrow, he mumbled, then stumbled to the guest room with Amber in tow. The mess was still there when I left for work the next morning. 2 weeks came and went. No mention of moving out. When I brought it up, Zach had a new excuse ready. Dude, housing market is insane right now. Everything's either way overpriced or total dumps. But I got a line on this sweet apartment complex, just waiting to hear back. I was skeptical but gave them another week. That week turned into 2. By the 1-month mark, they had fully settled in. Their crap was everywhere. Shoes by the door, makeup on the bathroom counter, random snacks in every cabinet. My place no longer felt like mine. One night, I came home to find them hosting a small get-together. 5 people I'd never met before smoking in my living room and eating my snacks. "Who are these people?" I asked Zach in the kitchen. "Just some friends from the old neighborhood," he said casually. "Don't worry, they're cool. I don't care if they're the Dalai Lama. Get them out of my apartment." Zach looked surprised. "Bro, it's only 9:30. Don't be that guy. I am absolutely that guy. This is my place." And I didn't agree to this. He rolled his eyes, but told everyone to leave. As they filed out, one dude gave me the finger behind my back. I saw it in the reflection of the TV screen. After they left, Zach and I had our first real fight. "You embarrassed me in front of my friends," he said, pacing the living room. "You brought strangers into my home without asking," I countered. "And you're eating my snacks that I paid for. Speaking of which, when are you planning to contribute anything to this situation? We're family. You're supposed to help family out when they're down. Down implies you're trying to get up. What exactly have you been doing for the past month?" He launched into some stuff about the economy and how hard it is for people our age. I cut him off. "Tomorrow you're both applying for jobs. Any jobs, McDonald's, Walmart, whatever. I don't care. And you're paying me $400 for rent starting next week." $400? He sputtered. "That's robbery. My rent is $1,400 plus utilities. You're getting a steal." He stormed off to the guest room, slamming the door like a teenager. I could hear him ranting to Amber about how selfish I was. The next morning, I found a folded $20 bill on the counter with a note for the snacks. "Sorry about last night." He was trying to buy his way back into my good graces with my own money. Classic Zach move. By week 5, I was starting to lose my mind. They still hadn't found jobs, though Amber had at least applied to a few places. Zach always had an excuse. The online application was glitching. The manager wasn't there when he stopped by. He was waiting for a call back from some connection. Then one day, while I was in the kitchen making coffee, when Zach approached looking sheepish. "Hey man, can I borrow your car today? Got an interview across town." I raised my eyebrows. An actual interview where this startup company tech stuff right up my alley. Zach couldn't tell the difference between a USB port and a headphone jack. "But sure, tech stuff." "What's the company called?" I asked. He hesitated. Tech Dynamic Solutions. Real cutting-edge place. A quick Google search on my phone showed no such company existed in our city. "Try again," I said. He dropped the act. "Fine. I need the car to meet this guy about a potential opportunity. It could be big money." "What kind of opportunity?" I asked. "Just business stuff." "You wouldn't get it." Translation: something shady as stuff that would probably get him arrested. "No car," I said firmly. This became a daily battle. They needed my car for job interviews, grocery runs, to visit friends. I always said no, mainly because I needed it for work, but also because I didn't trust them not to wreck it. After a particularly heated argument where Zach accused me of sabotaging their job search by not providing transportation, I made a decision that I would later deeply regret. I bought them a car, not a new car, obviously, a used 2008 Honda Civic with 140,000 miles on it. Cost me $3,500, but it was reliable, good on gas, and would get them to these supposed job interviews. When I handed Zach the keys, you'd think I'd given him a Ferrari. He actually jumped up and down. "Dude, you're the best. I can't believe you did this." For the first time in weeks, I felt good about helping them. Maybe this was the turning point. With transportation figured out, they could finally get jobs, save money, and move the hell out. They did use the car to go to the mall, visit friends, and take day trips to the beach. Not once did either of them come home and say, "Great news, I got a job." When I checked the mileage after 2 weeks, they'd put over 900 miles on it. When I asked about all this driving with no jobs to show for it, Zach just shrugged and said they were networking. At this point, I realized I'd been played again. The car wasn't a step toward independence, it was just another handout. But little did I know giving them wheels would lead to something even more twisted than financial exploitation. Because somewhere around the 3-month mark, things took a weird turn. I started noticing Zach watching me whenever I interacted with Amber. At first, it was just glances, but it quickly became more obvious. One evening, I asked Amber if she wanted some coffee while I was making some for myself. Before she could answer, Zach jumped in. "She doesn't drink coffee this late. It keeps her up." I looked at Amber. You had coffee after dinner at Mom's place last month. She opened her mouth to respond, but Zach cut her off again. She's trying to cut back. Caffeine makes her anxious. The weirdness escalated from there. If I was in the kitchen when Amber came in, Zach would suddenly appear. If I was watching TV and Amber sat on the other end of the couch, Zach would squeeze between us or call her away for something important. One day I came home from work and found Amber alone in the kitchen. She was making a sandwich and seemed startled when I walked in. "Hey," I said, grabbing a water from the fridge. "How's the job search going?" She relaxed a bit. "Not great. I had a phone interview for a receptionist position, but they wanted someone with more experience. Keep trying, something will come up." We chatted for a few minutes about normal stuff, a TV show she was watching. The weather, nothing remotely personal or inappropriate. Then Zach walked in and the whole vibe changed. His eyes darted between us. He shot me that look I didn't understand and immediately went to Amber, putting his arm around her waist. "What are you guys talking about?" He asked, his tone casual but his body language tense. "Just catching up," I said. Amber was telling me about her job search. "Yeah, she should be telling me about that stuff first." Amber looked at the floor. I just shook my head and left the kitchen. Later that night, I overheard them arguing in their room. "I saw how you were looking at him," Zach said, his voice low but intense. "Are you serious right now? He's your brother?" Amber replied, sounding exasperated. "Yeah, and he's always finding reasons to talk to you when I'm not around. He asked me about my job search. That's it. I see the way he looks at you and I see how you act different when he's around." Their voices got quieter after that, but I'd heard enough. This was insane. I wasn't hitting on his wife. I barely even talked to them unless it was to ask when they'd start pitching in around the house. I felt so suffocated just being around them. I didn't have the energy to hit on anyone. Like, "Bro, cut me some slack." The paranoia wasn't just about Amber either. Zach started rearranging my furniture without asking, moved my TV to a better angle, took over my desk for his gaming setup. When I called him out, he just shrugged and said, "We live here too, bro." "No, you're staying here temporarily. There's a huge effing difference." The paranoia escalated. If Amber and I were in the same room for more than 2 minutes, Zach would suddenly appear. He started accidentally walking in whenever I was in the bathroom or changing. Once I caught him going through my phone while I was in the shower. When I confronted him, he just smirked and said, "Just making sure you're not sending my wife any inappropriate texts." I laughed in his face. "Dude, you need help. I know what I see." He shot back. "You think I don't notice how you look at her?" I just walked away. I mean, what can you even say to that level of delusion? Anyways, what really pissed me off is that by month 5, my savings were being seriously depleted. My monthly expenses had nearly doubled. I was paying for all the rent and utilities, groceries for 3 people, their car insurance, gas for their car. They were always just about to pay me back random things they needed, new phone chargers, clothes for interviews, etc. On top of that, my sleep schedule was messed up. They stayed up late every night watching TV loudly or playing video games. If I asked them to keep it down, they'd act like I was being unreasonable. "It's only midnight," Zach would say. "Nobody goes to bed this early. People who have to be at work at 7 a.m. do stuff." I started documenting everything. Every dollar spent, every broken promise, every midnight argument. I don't know why exactly. Maybe I needed to prove to myself that I wasn't crazy for being fed up. One night, I walked in to find Zach playing my PS5, the one I'd clearly told him not to touch, and helping himself to stuff I'd been saving. He didn't even flinch when I called him out, just acted like it wasn't a big deal. When I reminded him it was off limits, he looked at me like I was the problem, throwing in a dig about how uptight I was and why I didn't have a girlfriend. That one hit. I had been seeing someone when they first moved in, but she stopped coming around because, in her words, my brother gave her the creeps. I told him to get off the console, and maybe he realized he pushed too far because he actually handed me the controller. Said he'd replace the bourbon too. He never did. The next day, I installed a lock on my bedroom door, not just to protect my stuff, but because I was starting to feel unsafe in my own home. The way Zach looked at me sometimes. This mix of resentment and suspicion made me think he was capable of doing something stupid. After 6 months of this BS, I was at my breaking point. My savings were drained, I was sleep deprived, and these 2 parasites showed zero appreciation. Then I got a call from my mom, Diane. For context, when Zach first needed a place, I called Mom to see if they could stay with her. She has this nice 4-bedroom house with plenty of space. Mom shut it down real quick. "There's no room," she said. Total lie. She had 2 empty bedrooms, the real reason she didn't want to spend her money taking care of them. But somehow it was totally fine for me to do it. So Mom calls me up all worked up. We need to talk. Can I come over? She shows up, sits on my couch, drinks my coffee, and has the nerve to start lecturing me. Zach told me what's been going on, she said with this disapproving look. I raised an eyebrow. Oh yeah. And what's that? Don't play dumb. He told me you've been making moves on Amber behind his back. I literally laughed out loud. Are you kidding me right now? This isn't funny. You're tearing their marriage apart. I stared at her, waiting for her to crack a smile or something, but she doubled down. I think the best solution is for you to help them get their own place. Buy them a house. Buy them a… what now? A house. They need their own space away from temptation. That's when it hit me. In her mind, I was the bad guy here. I was supposed to reward my freeloading paranoid brother by buying him a house because he made up some stuff about me hitting on his wife, despite the fact that he and Amber had contributed exactly zero to their own upkeep for half a year. I smiled. That calm smile that people who know me understand means I'm about to go nuclear. You know what? You're right. This situation isn't working anymore. Mom looked relieved. So you'll help them with a down payment number. But I've got a better solution. I spent that night planning. First, I called my landlord and explained that I had unwanted guests who wouldn't leave. He assured me that since they weren't on the lease and had an established tenant, never received mail, they never paid rent, I was within my rights to remove them. Then I set up security cameras in the common areas of the apartment. Nothing in the bathrooms or bedrooms, obviously, but the living room, kitchen, and hallway were now monitored just in case things got ugly. Finally, I took the day off work. No way was I doing this halfway. 7 a.m. sharp. I marched into their room, flipped on the lights, and said, "Get up, start packing." They were all groggy and confused. Huh. What's happening? Zach mumbled. You're leaving. Going to Mom's? I said. They both laughed, thinking I was messing with them. When they realized I was dead serious, Zach got defensive. We can't just go. Where would we even stay? Already told you. Mom's. She doesn't want us there, he whined. Not my problem, I replied. Maybe ask her to buy you a house. I smiled sweetly. Zach's face dropped. What? Oh, she didn't tell you about our chat. Interesting. Amber looked confused. What's he talking about, Zach? Nothing. He snapped then to me. Look, we just need a little more time. Time's up. Oh, and by the way, I know about the little story you've been spreading. Really creative, bro. He tried to act all tough, puffing up his chest like he was going to do something. I just leaned against the doorframe, completely unbothered. Touch me, and I'll have you arrested for assault. Then you can explain to the cops why you're living here rent-free and making up lies about me. We have rights, he yelled. You can't just throw us out. Actually, I can. You're not tenants, you're guests. Unwelcome ones at this point. I'll call Mom, he threatened. Please do. Put her on speaker. I'd love to continue our conversation from yesterday. That shut him up. He knew whatever lie he'd told her, the full story would come out if she got involved right now. Amber started crying, which almost made me feel bad. But then I remembered how she'd never once stood up to Zach. Never called him out on his stuff. Never contributed anything meaningful to the household. You have until noon, I said. Anything left behind gets donated or trashed. By noon, all their crap was stuffed into the car I bought them, and we drove straight to Mom's place. The whole way there, they sat in the back seat, not saying a word. Zach tried one last negotiation as we pulled into Mom's neighborhood. Look, I'm sorry about, the stuff with Amber. I get paranoid sometimes. We can work this out. There's nothing to work out, I replied. You made your bed. Now you can lie in it at Mom's house. When we got to Mom's house, I pulled into the driveway and turned off the car. I got a bounce, I said. Zach folded his arms. She's not going to let us stay here. I shrugged. Family helps family, right? Isn't that what you've been saying for the past 6 months while eating my food and accusing me of trying to sleep with your wife? Amber went pale. He said, what? I raised my eyebrows. Oh, you didn't know about that either, man. The communication in your marriage is just chef's kiss. I grabbed their bags from the trunk and placed them by the front door, then rang the bell. Mom opened up, saw the luggage, then looked at me with confusion. What's going on? She asked. I grinned. They need a place to live. You said family should always lend a hand, right? Plus, this way, Amber will be safe from my predatory ways. I winked at Mom. Zach and Amber stepped forward, trying to look as pathetic as possible. Mom, can we please? Zach started. No. Mom snapped, cutting him off mid-sentence. He looked shocked. What do you mean no? I mean what I said. You're not moving in here. Amber shifted uncomfortably. Where are we supposed to go? Mom sighed like I was the one causing problems. Travis, take them home. They can't stay here. I laughed. That's not happening. They're not my issue anymore. They're yours. At that point, I was ready for anything except what actually went down. That's when my stepdad Frank appeared behind Mom. He glanced at the bags, then at her, then over at me. Why can't they stay? He asked. Everyone froze. Mom turned to him shocked. What? They're your children, he said. We've got the space. Let them move in. Mom looked ready to explode. Frank, you don't get it. I understand perfectly, he interrupted. Travis has been supporting them for 6 months. It's time we do our part. I'd never seen my mother so pissed. She glared at me, then at my brother, then back at Frank. They don't work. They're lazy. They sit around all day and contribute nothing, she hissed. I smirked. That sounds pretty familiar, don't you think? Also, did Zach tell you about his little delusion that I'm trying to steal his wife? Might want to keep an eye on that. Frank raised his eyebrows. What? Zach turned red. He's twisting things. Oh, please, I interrupted. Tell Frank what you told Mom about how I'm supposedly making moves on Amber. Go ahead. Amber looked at Zach in disbelief. You seriously told your mom that Frank turned to Zach? You two can stay here, but only if you both find jobs right away. And it sounds like you might need some therapy too, son. Zach looked furious. Amber just looked embarrassed. Mom was practically shaking with rage. I checked my watch. Well, this has been super fun, but I've got stuff to do. You know, like working to pay for my own place. As I turned to leave, Mom grabbed my arm. You can't just walk away from this. I calmly removed her hand. Actually, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm done. What do you mean, done? She demanded. I mean, I'm done with all of you. Zach, who mooched off me for half a year and then made up disgusting lies about me. Amber, who never once stood up to him or contributed anything. And you, who enabled all of it and then had the effing audacity to suggest I buy them a house. Frank looked at Mom. You did what now? Mom sputtered. I didn't mean save it. I cut her off. From this moment on, none of you exist to me. Don't call, don't text, don't show up at my place. We're done. Zach stepped forward. Come on, bro. You don't mean that. I've never meant anything more in my life, I said with a smile. Good luck with your new living situation. And Amber might want to rethink who you married. Paranoid delusions don't usually get better with time. Mom was practically in tears now. You're tearing this family apart, I laughed. That's rich coming from you. This family was broken long before today. I'm just finally walking away from the wreckage. Frank sighed. Travis, maybe once things cool down. Nope, no cooling down period. No second chances. No reconciliation down the road. I'm not doing this anymore. I looked at each of them one last time. Good luck. I got in my car and drove away without looking back. My phone started blowing up immediately, but I didn't even look at it. When I got home, I blocked all their numbers and removed them from all my social media. Then I poured myself a drink and sat in the peaceful quiet of my apartment. That night, I finally got some real sleep. No tension, no freeloaders draining my wallet, and no one throwing random accusations my way. Just peace and quiet. Finally, I spent the next day deep cleaning my apartment. It was almost therapeutic washing away every trace of them from my space. I changed the locks with my landlord's permission, rearranged the furniture back to how I liked it, and ordered myself a fancy dinner to celebrate my newfound freedom. The guest room, now actually a guest room again, got completely overhauled. I turned it into a home office gaming room, something I'd always wanted but couldn't do while the parasites were occupying it. Every time I walked past that room and saw my stuff in there instead of their chaos, I felt a little surge of satisfaction. Of course, the peace didn't last long. The flying monkeys started arriving within days. And there came the barrage of texts and calls from unknown numbers. Mom and Zach using other people's phones to try to get around my blocks. I blocked those too. Then came the social media messages from distant relatives and high school friends I hadn't talked to in years. Your mom is really worried about you, dude. Zach says, you're having some kind of breakdown. Family is everything. You should try to work things out. These people had no clue what had been going on, but suddenly they were family therapists with opinions on my life choices. I either ignored them or sent back a simple mind your own business before blocking them too. The most amusing attempt was when my mom's sister, Aunt Karen, yes, actually named Karen, and yes, she lives up to the name, showed up at my workplace. She tried to corner me in the parking lot with some speech about blood being thicker than water and how I needed to be the bigger person. I just laughed and said, I've been the bigger person for 27 years. I'm retired from that position. Then I got in my car and left her standing there. My coworkers noticed the change in me almost immediately. One of them, Dave, commented that I seemed lighter somehow. I hadn't realized how much that situation had been weighing on me until it was gone. About 3 weeks after the cut, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Normally I'd ignore it, but something made me pick up. Travis, it's Frank. Don't hang up. I almost did hang up, but something stopped me. What do you want, Frank? Just to talk. 5 minutes of your time. I'm not calling on behalf of your mom or brother. I sighed. 5 minutes? They lasted exactly 3 weeks at our place, he said without preamble. Your mom kicked them out. I couldn't help but laugh. Let me guess. Zach didn't get a job. They trashed the place and he accused you of having the hots for Amber. Frank was silent for a moment. How did you know? Because that's exactly what they did to me. The paranoia thing is a pattern with him. Yeah, well, it got ugly. He actually tried to swing at me when I told him to start contributing or get out. Your mom sided with him at first, but even she had to admit it was out of hand. They're staying at some extended stay motel now. Your mom's paying for it. And you're telling me this because you were right about all of it. And I wanted you to know that. I see that now. I appreciated Frank's honesty, but it didn't change anything. Thanks for the update, but my decision stands. I'm done with all of them. I respect that, Frank said. But there's one more thing you should know. Your mom's been calling me nonstop asking if you've gotten over your tantrum yet and if you'll help them again. She's running out of money supporting them. I shook my head, even though he couldn't see me. Not my problem. I know. I told her the same thing. Look, I'm not asking you to let them back into your life. God knows I wouldn't in your position. I just thought you deserved to know the full picture. I appreciate that, Frank. You're actually the only decent one in that house. Yeah, well, I'm starting to question my own choices these days, he said with a dry laugh. We ended the call on decent terms. I didn't unblock Mom or Zach, but I did save Frank's number just in case. After that, I just minded my own business, trying to live my life away from the drama. But about a month later, I bumped into Amber while grocery shopping. She was working the register looking completely drained. We exchanged a few awkward lines, mostly small talk laced with tension. She let it slip. They weren't in the motel anymore. My mom had cut them off and now they were living in someone's garage. She apologized, teary-eyed, admitting she should have spoken up about the way they treated me. I didn't dig into it. I asked if she was still with Zach. She was. That told me everything I needed to know. Before I left, she warned me Zach was outside and asked if I could stall for a bit. I didn't want drama, but I also wasn't going to hide, so I walked out. Sure enough, Zach was leaning on my car like he was auditioning for a low-budget revenge movie. He opened with fake, casual tried guilt, tripping me about how cold the garage was and how Amber's job barely covered anything. I told him maybe it was time he got a job himself. That's when his face changed. You've always been such an arrogant prick, thinking you're better than everyone. Mom's right about you. You never cared about us, only yourself. I laughed. Told him if I only cared about myself, I wouldn't have let them live in my house rent-free or bought them a car. He called the car a piece of junk. I reminded him he was still driving it. He got quiet, fists clenched, probably debating whether to swing. Instead, he just muttered some dramatic threat about me regretting this when Mom's gone. I told him the only thing I regret is not kicking him out sooner and warned him to back off before I got security involved. He finally moved, but not before spitting near my feet, classy to the very end. As I drove off, I caught him still standing there in my mirror looking bitter and lost. I felt not guilt, but maybe disappointment. Could have been different, but he made sure it wasn't. And yeah, it's been 6 months since the cut and my life has done a complete 180. Without the financial drain of supporting 2 adults, I've managed to save enough for a down payment on a condo. It's smaller than my old apartment, but in a better neighborhood, and most importantly, it's mine. I've started dating again, too. Her name is Ellie, and she's everything Amber wasn't. Independent, ambitious, with an actual career as a physical therapist. She has her own place, her own car, her own life. When we hang out, it's because we want to, not because either of us needs something from the other. The flying monkeys eventually gave up when they realized I wasn't going to budge. Even Mom stopped trying after the first few months. The only updates I get are occasional texts from Frank, who seems to be rethinking his own relationship with my mother these days. Last I heard, Zach and Amber split up. Zach and Amber. Apparently, his paranoia didn't improve, and after accusing her of cheating with her manager at the grocery store, she finally had enough. She moved back to her hometown to live with a cousin. Zach moved back in with mom, shocking absolutely no one. Some people never learn, but I did. Best decision I ever made was walking away. My bills are lower, my stress is gone, and for the first time in my life, I'm putting myself first without feeling guilty about it. Sometimes you got to cut the cancer out completely to heal.